What is going on? Brian Carroll here, powerxstrength.com HQ. Today we are getting into 1020 Life, 7th part, part number 7. In this video, I'm going to cover the Fluff and Buff, which is your 4th day, optional day in the 1020 Life philosophy. Depending on what approach you're going, please see the other previous 6 videos for more information on what we've covered so far. So now we're going to jump right into the Fluff and Buff. You've heard me talk about this a little bit. I have a little Marco Rubio moment, taking my drink and looking awkwardly at the camera at my State of the Union rebuttal. Anyway, Fluff and Buff I talked about. It's your 4th day. It's your optional day where you do more of a touch-up. You can do basically a circuit-like training on this day if you want to. You can also use it as a secondary bench day if you want to do speed work, which I'll get into more of in the coming videos on whether you need speed work and how you can determine if you need speed work, those type of things coming up. But the Fluff and Buff day is your 4th day, okay? And this is a day where you attack weak points, you move some blood around, you can do speed bench or a light bench, or a secondary day where you overhead press and do close grip, those types of things. Use this day as an assistance weak point day and not a super heavy day. Don't want you doing that. If you're an average lifter with similar issues on the bench where you're just kind of weak, you're trying to build strength in the bench press, you've diagnosed the problem as a lack of maybe pec or deltoid or tricep, or even form, lack of on bench press, lack thereof, you're going to need more stimuli to take it to the next level. So you can't always recover from too heavy bench days, and I've talked about this at length in the former videos and in 1020 Life and multiple other videos that I've done, and you can't burn the candle at both ends forever. Some people can bench heavy 2 times a week and get away with it, but not everyone can do it, especially as their numbers start to climb. So we want a secondary bench day where it's going to be lighter and complementary. What you don't want to do is have a secondary bench day that's so heavy and so hard that you can't recover when it's time to turn around and do your main bench day. So let's say you do a Fluff and Buff on a Thursday like I do, or a Friday right now, and then you blast your body so hard that you're not ready for that Monday bench day that's your meat and potatoes day. So keep that in mind. You sometimes can pre-exhaust your muscles on this day where you don't have to use as much weight. That way is enough stimulation for you to grow, so a little bit of hypertrophy, work on your form, hit your delts, hit your pecs, hit your core, hit your back a little bit, and then recover. So you have enough time to recover before the next day on Monday. So I suggest this day being the opposite end of the week as your bench. For instance, if you bench on Sunday, do your Fluff and Buff on Wednesday. I bench on Monday, so I do my Fluff and Buff on Thursday or Friday. That way, I move through it quick and I have plenty of time to recover before it's time to do the regular meat and potatoes bench day on Monday. So again, you need recovery because you can only grow and recover from, you can only do what you can recover from and sustain. So that's key. How this works, and I'm going to lay this out now. The idea is to pick a couple pre-exhaust movements, for instance, like some side raises, shoulder big 3, which I talk about with Andrew Locke. I have a video that I can link below about the shoulder big 3 and how to prime the cervical spine and the T-spine. Use these movements to pre-exhaust to make sure you're nice and warm, and then get into your meat and potatoes day. Here's an example of a Fluff and Buff day that you can do. You start with some side raises. You start with some tricep press downs. You go to some band flies. That way you've hit the shoulders warm, the pecs are warm, the triceps are warm. Then you move on to some dumbbell presses or incline presses or speed bench, or maybe some machine presses. You get 3 to 5 sets of 12 to 15. Obviously, if you're doing speed work on the bench, you're gonna do singles, doubles, or triples in multiple grips. And again, you gotta make that your own depending on what you need. And then after you hit that, you can finish with some band press downs or high reps, hammer curls, those types of things. Some lifters will need more speed than others. I cover this in chapter 16. This needs to be determined on a person-to-person basis. If one is super fast and explosive, then you're not likely to need as much speed work. But if you're slow and you're a good grinder, then speed work can be something that's great for you to do. But just remember, speed work, especially if you're using bands, does present extra load on the bench press, on the muscles, on the joints, because even though you're not lifting at maximal lift capacity, you're using maximal force and maximal effort in trying to achieve that speed under the bar. So it is making your joints take the brunt of the force of that. So keep that in mind, because you're pushing through it, your muscles aren't strained, and then you have to snap the lock out and slow it down. So that can cause extra wear and tear on your joints. I'm not saying it's any worse or better than any other movements, but just because it's light doesn't mean it's not stressful on your joints. So if you're a grinder like me, if you're a speed lifter like me, you need to work on grinding. And if you're someone that grinds really well, you need to work on getting faster and using speed work in your arsenal. And you can apply this on your bench day, after your bench day, on your fluff and buff day. And again, you can use the same application for squats and deadlifts and work in speed work. But again, blindly doing speed work, I don't think is a very good reason to do it. You need to be able to define why you're doing each exercise, give a specific reason for why you're doing it. And if it doesn't work, then you need to re-examine and move on from there. So for your fluff and buff day, if you're doing speed work for the bench, I suggest about 5 to 8 singles at 50%. With your competition form, use bands or chains if needed, but start with just the bar and weights and work on moving that faster. Then eventually add some bands or chains depending, but again, the least effective dose possible with that. Again, more on this in chapter 16, but that's basically your fluff and buff outline. A couple pre-exhaust moves, a couple main moves to do. You can do this in a circuit fashion, or the way I like to do it is a couple pre-exhaust movements, speed bench or overhead press, dumbbell overhead press, barbell standing overhead press, close grip, and then a couple things to finish it with. Maybe press downs, sled drags, suitcase carries, quad extensions, quad leg curls, whatever it may be. Again, it's not supposed to be a super high volume, high intensity day. Treat it like a light day where you're in and out in about 30 minutes. So if you're spending more than 30 or 45 minutes on your fluff and buff day, you're going too hard, or you're taking too much rest in between sets. So that kind of defeats the purpose of that when you're going slow and lifting too heavy. So light, fast, fluff and buff. So that wraps up what the fluff and buff day is. So the next thing I want to do is I want to talk about the deload. Thank you so much for watching today. Please subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed this video, and have a wonderful day.